Welcome to this explainer. Today we aren't just throwing out basic sleep tips. We are going to completely crack open the human operating system and decode a hidden biological truth. We're setting out to answer one really profound question. What are the invisible forces shaping your energy, your emotions, and your cognitive longevity every single second of the day?
Okay, let's think about this totally bizarre paradox for a second. It's late. Your eyes are burning. Your body is practically begging for rest, right? Yet, you fight off sleep to scroll through your phone or watch just one more episode. Why on earth do we intentionally sabotage our own biology when we are completely, utterly exhausted?
Well, the answer actually lies in a phenomenon called revenge bedtime procrastination. And here's the thing. This isn't a failure of willpower, not at all. It is a subconscious evolutionary rebellion. Think about it. When your daytime hours are totally hijacked by bosses, obligations, and infinite to-do lists, your primitive brain fights back to reclaim autonomy in literally the only hours left, the dark of night.
There are basically three criteria that define this trap. You delay sleep, there's absolutely no emergency keeping you awake, and you are fully aware it's going to wreck your metabolic health tomorrow. Yet your metabolically depleted prefrontal cortex simply cannot resist the urge. But to really understand why this late-night urge just overpowers your logic, we have to look deeper, straight into the invisible machinery of your biological clocks.
That brings us to Section 1, the two invisible clocks, how Process S and Process C govern your existence.
Right at this very moment, a massive hidden tension is playing out inside your skull. Process S is your homeostatic sleep drive. Think of it like a biological pressure cooker of a chemical called adenosine that builds up every single waking second. But countering that is Process C, your circadian rhythm. This is the master clock in your brain dictating alertness, completely independent of how exhausted you actually are. Now, for true human flourishing, these two invisible forces must perfectly align.
And this alignment relies on an ancient hormonal relay race. Morning light hits your eyes, triggering cortisol to wake you up. Then, daytime light suppresses melatonin. As dusk settles, your brain unlocks the melatonin required to actually initiate sleep. But here's the critical question we have to ask ourselves. What happens to this incredibly fragile evolutionary system when modern life bathes us in artificial blue light, deep into our biological night?
Well, the answer exposes a major hidden vulnerability. Human biology does not actually run on a neat 24-hour clock. We average 24.2 hours. Because our natural rhythm drifts a bit longer, we rely heavily on environmental light cues to forcefully reset our biology every single day. So, when we override those cues with screens, we drift into a highly dangerous neurological state.
Which leads us to Section 2, the mind after midnight. We're looking at ego depletion and the wired but tired brain.
See, when you push past your biological window, your prefrontal cortex, which is basically the braking system for your impulses, metabolically crashes. Meanwhile, your stress hormones spike. In this incredibly vulnerable, wired but tired state, a dark, quiet room simply cannot compete with the variable ratio dopamine hits engineered right into your smartphone. Your reward networks are literally hijacked by sleep deprivation.
Like Dr. Zeisser points out, your frontal cortex becomes horribly inefficient at this point, trapping you in those anxious, repetitive thought loops we all know too well. But the doom scrolling and the 2 a.m. anxiety, they aren't even the real danger. The true devastation is that by staying awake, you are actively blocking a microscopic, life-saving biological miracle from occurring in your head.
Let's dive into Section 3 to see what that is, the brain's nightly wash, the hidden miracle of the glymphatic system.
This right here is the primary restorative benefit of sleep. I want you to picture this cinematic cellular event. Deep in slow-wave sleep, your brain's interstitial space physically expands by up to 60%. Cerebrospinal fluid rushes in on an arterial pulse, literally power washing away toxic metabolic waste. We are talking about clearing out the exact amyloid and tau proteins that are linked to Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. It's astonishing.
And now get this. It's a wildly counterintuitive discovery. Your physical posture actually dictates the efficiency of the cellular wash. Sophisticated imaging shows that sleeping on your side mechanically maximizes this waste removal far better than sleeping on your back. But there is a massive catch to all of this. This entire life-saving system completely shuts down if we make one very specific modern mistake.
And that brings us to Section 4, the modern biological mismatch. Why your brain literally thinks your to-do list is a predator.
You have to realize your ancient primitive nervous system cannot tell the difference between a looming physical predator and an unread email. Cognitive arousal, keeping mental tabs on tomorrow's meetings or unresolved tasks, is interpreted by your biology as an active threat. If you do not intentionally close these cognitive loops, your cortisol stays spiked, which completely blocks the melatonin required to ever initiate that deep glymphatic brainwash we just talked about.
So how do we fix it? Section 5, Rewiring the Operating System. Let's bridge the gap between our behavior and cellular health.
We know health is the emergent result of biological interconnectedness. So we look at elite protocols to safely transition your nervous system from survival mode into recovery. Take Cal Newport's method of verbally stating, "shutdown complete," that physically signals safety to your prefrontal cortex. Jeff Bezos' protocol of prepping tomorrow's decisions lowers evening cortisol by conserving energy. And the Franklin method of nightly reflection, that shifts your default mode network completely away from stress. The goal is to actively eliminate the mental residue that drives bedtime procrastination.
All of this requires what's called a sleep runway, basically a 30 to 60-minute window of low arousal transition. By engineering a sensory shift with a digital sunset and a change in body temperature, you are manually aligning your behavior with process C. You are sending a massive biological green light to your master clock that it is finally truly safe to recover. And speaking of that thermal shift, it requires a highly specific metric, 18.3 degrees Celsius, or about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. This is literally the optimal thermal environment to trigger cutaneous vasodilation. Your core body temperature absolutely must biologically drop in order for your brain to plunge into the deep, slow-wave sleep where all that cellular repair actually occurs. So once you enter that state, how long do you actually need? Well, you can forget that generic 7 to 9 hours advice. Advanced neurobehavioral modeling reveals a very precise target. Healthy adults require an average of 8.2 hours of sleep to maintain peak cognitive longevity and metabolic health. And every tiny daytime decision you make compounds to dictate whether you're going to achieve this.
Ultimately, what this all means is that your health is not just a collection of separate random habits. It is the breathtaking, emergent result of countless interconnected biological processes happening every moment of every day. Your light exposure dictates your hormones dictate your impulses, and those impulses dictate whether your brain can successfully wash away the wreckage of the day. So tonight, when the exhaustion sets in and the screens start calling out to you, you face a really profound choice. Will you continue to steal time from your future self, or will you surrender to the invisible biological forces waiting to repair you?